Good morning, Kara and Jenny.
Hey,
Good
Teresa, how are
morning.
you?
It's good to see you both. Jenny and Kara, you're both with the Meadows. So, as one of our silver level sponsors, we really appreciate you and wanted to give you an opportunity to just come on and talk about the program, talk about the two of you and your background and expertise, so we can give people a sense of the Meadows. And which one of you would like to start? Jenny, you want to start?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I know we go back a long ways.
We do,
I,
don't we,
yeah.
Jenny?
Well, back when I met you, I just released my first book, Life Without Ed. If y'all don't know, ED stands for eating disorder, ED, but I was able to hang out a lot with Teresa and learn so much. And back then, what was ironic is I didn't know I had trauma. I knew I had an eating disorder, and that's what my book was about, and that I'd recovered from that. But I wish back then I would have known what I knew now. So, what's really cool for me as an author and speaker in this field, and someone with personal experience, I don't have letters behind my name, I'm not a clinician. What's really cool for me was when I had the opportunity to work with the Meadows. The CEO actually emailed me once, and it was kind of my dream to work with the Meadows and be a senior fellow with Dr. Dick Swartz and Bessel van der Kolk and all those people. And I received an email and about fell out of my chair when they invited me to be a senior fellow. And it was just such a great opportunity to finally get to really learn more about trauma. And I was working on my own trauma. So I just feel so blessed to be at a program that really looks at the whole person. And, we tackled the brain too. We had neurofeedback. Maybe we'll talk a little more about that. Really helped me a lot. But so much of what we do at the Meadows, I actually did in my own recovery from eating disorder and trauma. So it's just awesome to be there. I love working with Kara Fowler. She might not tell you how amazing she is, but she's not only an eating disorder dietitian, she's an eating disorder therapist and a trauma therapist, all wrapped up in one. And so I'll let you tell
Gotcha.
more about yourself, Kara. But we are so happy when Kara agreed to leave Austin, Texas, and move out to Arizona to head the program.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, that's a great intro to Kara. So you moved from Austin, Kara, to be a part of the Meadows?
I did. I did. It felt like kind of the stars lining up as far as like when it happened in my life, such that, it was the right time and the right place.
Yeah.
But I'd been in Austin for most of my uh work with eating disorders and trauma. Started out my initial few years in Cincinnati, Ohio. But under my first career hat was as a dietitian, and
Hmm.
I'm still a dietitian, but it was, doing the individual work as a dietitian in eating disorders, outpatient group practice that I started understanding, the impact of trauma
Yeah.
and becoming really interested in learning more about trauma recovery. So um, I did end up going back to school, and I'm a licensed professional counselor also. And of course, some of the most effective interventions that I've found with people are through the IFS model. And then I'm trained in somatic experiencing and EMDR and, a couple of other of the trauma focused modalities. But have been really excited to be at the Meadows. Again, just as Jenny said, it's such a holistic model
Yeah.
and a lot of, kind of the bottom up body based interventions as well as the top down um, principles and a lot of emphasis on connection
Yeah. That's great.
as its
And
importance to
can you tell
healing.
me a little bit about the eating disorder program?
Yes, so we have a full spectrum of care that's offered through the Meadows programs for eating disorder treatment, and then a lot of focus on all the co-occurring disorders that might present along with that, in particular trauma. Trauma recovery is kind of the basis for, all of the Meadows programs. So we have our inpatient and residential program in Wickenburg on the same property as the kind of the flagship facility of the Meadows. And it is a program where we're really able to individualize around meal plan, around activity, really looking at what does each individual need, even individualizing some of the monitoring needs. We can kind of move to a higher or a lower level of support depending on, on what people's specific diagnoses or behaviors and also trauma history
Yeah.
might involve that's contributing to the eating disorder behaviors. And so we're fully integrated in with the Meadows model principles, and including the programming involving a lot of work that incorporates the IFS concepts, along with, some of the other very applicable models out there, including like polyvagal theory,
Yeah.
and
Neurofeedback, Jenny mentioned.
Yeah.
yes. And so a lot of experiential therapy as well, including everybody gets equine twice a week. We do ropes weekly. We do restaurant challenges. We do, yoga a couple of times a week. And also everybody has access to what Jenny had mentioned as well, the Brain Center, which offers a variety of tools that are biofeedback based in some way
Yeah.
that the patients can use. And some of them we actually will help prompt them to use some of those tools either right before or right after meals for people that are really struggling with urges. It's one of those things that we can offer to people to actively intervene and to sort out, what actually helps their nervous system settle
That's great.
versus trying to just like get through that initial time period after meals.
Yeah.
And then neurofeedback as well, people get about twice a week. And some of that, of course, there's a period of making sure that people are medically stable too. And so we might, all of the activities, we do individualize kind of who's doing what. But we end up with a really well-rounded program, also incorporating family and we have a family foundations program where families come for a few days in person to have all day programming, as well as like weekly sessions.
That's great. And with the eating disorder programs, is it a specific program or is it a track like with like everybody together and then you have like the breakout for the eating disorder groups, or is it a specialized unit?
It is a specialized unit.
Right.
So yes, it's a specialized unit. And it is all genders and all adults.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was my next
18 and
question.
up.
What ages? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes, it's a specialized unit. There are some activities that may be combined for groups here and there.
Yeah.
But those tend to be there are some of our 12-step groups that are peer-led and staff supported in the evenings. Sometimes those groups may be combined with the groups on the main campus. And then patients also can participate in, we have Saturday workshops that focus on addiction, for instance, that might have a speaker, that's another one of the senior fellows, and the patients that are in the Meadows eating disorder program may attend that along with patients that are in some of the other programs in the Meadows facilities on the same property.
That's great.
But for the most part, day to day, it's a specialized unit, and they kind of eat all together and do their weekly process groups all together.
That's great.
So yeah.
So Jenny,
Mm.
what else would you add about the eating disorder program at the Meadows?
Well, thanks for asking. I love really what Kara said. There's just a couple things I'd emphasize kind of along that, maybe, or maybe three, but the
Mhm.
one when she says individualized, like I want people to realize like we actually really mean that. See, and here's a great example that I love, Kara, you explained to me recently is how not all of our patients need bathroom checks. So in eating disorder treatment, if you're not familiar with it, it's common after, when someone goes to the bathroom that someone will check it and to make sure they're not throwing up, for example. But and you might want to talk more on this, Kara, but not all patients need that. When I was struggling, that wasn't something I did. I didn't really throw up. So I didn't need that. And going to a program that really trusted me in that and like got to know me and really tailored the program to me and my problems, like would have really meant a lot to me. So I don't know. Do you want to touch base on that at all, Carrie? I think it's a really important point, even though it's, just one small example, but
Right, right. Well, I mean, and our philosophy and the clinical intention around individualizing things like bathroom monitoring is to be, you know, having the least restraint
yeah,
possible,
Yeah,
that's needed for each individual, and especially like because the vast majority um, of patients, of course, that we see are oftentimes dealing with a significant level of trauma history.
yeah,
And so, any of the places in treatment where it could very easily feel intrusive or violating in some way. We don't want to
yeah,
activate somebody when if there is no clinical reason to do
sure.
so.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
so we really try to empower patients. And the other thing that we do is um, starting out, we're very active in making sure that everybody has some active coping plans and anticipating urges and a lot of support and permission around disclosure of urges and certain levels of urges. And because we really want to demonstrate that, the staff are here to support them. We're not going um, to take over, I guess, is, a word like if they are in a place where we can just help them manage the urge and get through, we want to give them opportunity to do so. And then at the same time, for those patients that are just not in a place where they're able to engage yet, especially at the beginning of treatment, with really being able to manage those urges and things, then we do start out kind of being right there and doing some bathroom monitoring in a more typical way. But we want there to be that space for, yeah, people to just be focusing on what they need, and not having reactions in response to things that they don't need if
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
really not helpful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing is, there's a lot of people I meet with eating disorders who think, well, I've been to treatment twice or once or three times or 10 times, and I'm never going to get better. I'm just one of those people. There's too much.
Mhm.
And I mean, speaking to those people right now and to anybody who treats, more what you might say complex cases, but it's Kara, I love that Kara's very specific with language. Like, we don't want to label people. But, I want to say, like, we see people get better. Like, we want the patients who have been to treatment three times. We want the patients who've never been to treatment too. But we, like Kara, what I love about Kara is she embraces like challenges, and we want people to have hope, even if you've gone through all this and nothing has worked. Like, it can click, and we are different. And you're not going to go to almost any other program, none that I can think of off the top of my head, that you're going to get neurofeedback twice a week or equine twice a week. And if you don't know neurofeedback, real quick, as a patient, it's great because it's like one of those things, it's passive. You don't have to do anything except maybe play Tetris or watch your favorite Netflix show. And your brain is hooked up to a machine. Your brain is interacting with the game or with the movie in order to work in the most effective way to watch that television show, for instance. So if I'm watching TV and my brain isn't watching in the most optimal way, the TV is going to fuzz up and the brain wants it to be clear. So the brain's like, oh, well, we got to do this and this and rewire to see the TV. Patients love that. We don't talk about trauma or eating disorders. We just sit there and watch TV, but we're going straight to the brain and rewiring. For me personally, that helped with like the tunnel vision and the OCD like thoughts and really
Right.
to break out and see like a bigger picture. And I don't know if anything could have done that without neurofeedback. So there's just a lot we offer that if you've been a patient before, you might not have ever encountered and never tried, like EMDR, somatic experiencing. So it's really an honor to be with the program. We could talk for like 30 minutes,
Yeah,
Teresa.
we
So you,
totally could. Yeah, I know. And
but it's amazing. I'm amazed
neurofeedback
I
is
hear you
really,
talk
really
here. Yes.
fabulous. It's really like I feel like an important adjunctive part. And when Bessel's book came out and he was talking about neurofeedback and then referenced Seaburn Fisher, who coined
Hmm.
the term developmental trauma, and then she came up with a protocol for with the I think the eager model, and then Bessel van der Kolk got his whole Boston program or the staff trained in it because he saw such a benefit of it. And for me, and it was Seaburn, I think it was the one that she was like, there's she's working with all these kids who had developmental trauma, and there wasn't any type of therapy that was really touching that fear-based brain.
Right.
Oh, that reminds me of my clients that are in the throes of recovery. It's that
Hmm.
fear-based brain. And so I
Right.
trained, I think in 2018 with um, the guy who does the eager model. I can't remember his name, but who did the training at Bessel's because I wanted that. I was like, if we could help calm that fear-based brain while people
Right.
are in recovery, does it
Right.
exactly like you said, Jenny, does it give them the opportunity to really
Hmm.
deal with the intrusive thoughts, to deal with making a different choice because the brain is calming down and working optimally?
Yeah.
Right. Right. And it
Really?
wasn't, was it, it wasn't Bruce Perry, was it? So
No.
you're talking about the guy, because we have Bruce Perry. Do you know who Bruce Perry?
Yeah.
You know Bruce
Yeah.
Perry, right? So because
Yeah.
he's another one of our senior fellows,
Yeah.
and I've, followed Bruce Perry for years, of course, because he's, out of Houston. But we use, even though, all of his work is with children and adolescents, I
Yeah.
mean, it is so,
It's
it's
powerful work.
it's
Yeah.
so validating too
Yes.
for the people that we're working with, right? To try to understand, to help them understand what may be happening in their brain and kind of, and you know, how it all may have started, like just from that brain perspective without getting into the weeds of, the trauma history with people that are not
Ready to
regulated enough
exactly.
yet,
Exactly.
to go there with the story, but just helping them um, move away and separate from some of the shame that they,
Right.
right, are constantly stuck in, and realize like, no, it's not you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not even the eating disorder,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really great. I love that component that you all offer. And anything else that you want to make sure we highlight before we jump off?
Oh,
Trying
yeah.
to
I would just
think.
say like, oh, sorry, go ahead. Kara, you
No,
say.
no, no. I was just gonna say, and here I've been thinking, because I was like, I should have like written some things down because I'm like, oh, I'm sure there's gonna be something. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I forgot that. But
Well, one of the reasons why we're doing this is that if people have questions and they can
right.
reach you um
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and have access to you all.
yeah. Were you gonna say
Yeah, well, what I
anything,
noticed,
Jenny?
and this is something I learned in my process of working with the Meadows the past 7 years, but what I learned is in my traditional eating disorder treatment, I learned how to, appreciate my body and eventually, love my body, but I never learned how to live in my body. And that's what I feel like the trauma piece and what the Meadows, our programs bring, especially to the eating disorder field. Our program is unlike some other programs, we really help people inhabit their body, not just talking about what it looks like or social media and images, media literacy, but like actually get inside the body. And that was just something that ironically from my treatment myself for years was missing. And I just love that at the Meadows programs, you're actually getting to jump into your body and really inhabit it. So it's a fun vehicle for life. So
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Well, we try to emphasize again, too, from the beginning, and educate people that trauma recovery and trauma work is happening from day one
hmm
with eating disorder treatment, because so much of the time people, come in and they think of trauma work as like memory work. And that's not what it's about,
Right, right.
really, right? And of course, that's one of the reasons why I love IFS,
hmm
and just, the parts-based models, period,
Yeah,
because it's such a wonderful way to step in to building relationship with the body and the self
right.
and connecting to the self, um, from a here and now place that
Yeah,
doesn't have to involve like going off a cliff again into,
back in. Yeah.
yeah, into trauma recovery. And that's, I think that our whole team does a really good job of holding that space. We have just a great team um, of very dedicated people, and we have a fantastic medical director as well, who has worked in the eating disorder field for a long time, is very passionate, very dedicated, and provides a lot of personal uh, care to patients and what they need. Um, so his name is Stu Kaplan. He's on the website. But
That's great.
uh, yeah, so it's just a wonderful privilege, right, to
Yeah,
be able to serve
that's awesome.
the population.
Well, thank you both for like coming on here and talking more about the Meadows and the eating disorder program there. And if people have more questions, they can find you on the link. And yeah, I just really appreciate you all sponsoring the conference.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for all
Yeah,
you do.
well,
Great event.
we appreciate the opportunity and excited for the conference too.
Yeah, great.
So
We'll see you next
great.
week.
Okay.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.